I came out when I was 19, but I've been coming out every day since. The coming out event that I've marked as my deliverance from the closet more than 20 years ago has become a hallway of mirrors, forever echoing backward and forward every time I step into a new room. I think about this hallway of mirrors as I look around at what's happening to queer, trans, and two-spirit people. Trans people are facing increased scrutiny. Their rights are being rolled back as I speak. Queer youth are losing their right to privacy, safety, and access to community. These events echo discriminations of the past. They repeat struggles long ago won. This makes me think about the phrase that social change moves with one step forward and two steps back. A line that seems to say, be patient, your time will come, but I don't buy it. I think that this lulls us into believing that time is something that's outside of us, that we are passive agents in a larger social clock of progress. And actually, I think this is more dangerous than we realize, not only because it tempers our expectations, but because when we anticipate that events will take place in a certain way, according to certain timelines, we actually have the effect of bringing these future events, good or bad, into the present moment. What does this mean? Well, let's take the example of cars. If we think that the answer of electric cars is the only solution to the problem of gas emissions, then our science, our innovation, and our resources will all serve the belief that electric cars are our only future. Other options, energy from recycled plastic, what about hoverboards, lightspeed travel? These options will be ignored as we pledge ourselves to a predetermined future. Likewise, if we expect that every queer kid will have to come out for the rest of their lives, we close down the possibility where there is no such thing as coming out of the closet, where diverse expressions of gender and sexuality are as welcome and as familiar as flowers in spring. And so here's my proposal. I want to build queer futures, futures that are diverse and different, futures that are welcoming and affirming. And in order to build queer futures, we need to be time makers. So now you're thinking I'm taking you on a science fiction adventure. Well, maybe in the way that science fiction so often becomes reality. But no, this is the very real world, concrete, every minute way in which we live as time makers. When I told my childhood friends at age 19 that I was queer, they traveled back in time to my short hair phase in grade 2. They thought about my refusal to wear dresses in grade 8. They snapped cause and effect around youthful expression and rewrote history and said, oh yeah, I always knew that about you. But I didn't know. I wasn't following a plan. I was just learning and growing, expressing myself in different ways. I was making my own time. I didn't ask to be part of any pre-written plan of development. Let's think about this from another angle, during this rare instance of global memory that we all share. During COVID, a bunch of really cool researchers started this worldwide study of time that they called the Blur's Day study. Do you remember how COVID was a Blur's Day? I certainly do. There was no difference between a weekend and a weekday. Holidays and birthdays were canceled, but still took up space in their absence. February became January, became April. Quarantine, as some have called it, became a marker of monotony, of waiting, of feeling stuck in this blurry lack of time. One of the findings of the Blur's Day study was that our experiences of time running together, of no difference and no new experiences, correlated to increased experiences of depression and anxiety. I'm sure this also isn't surprising. Blur's Day flattened out our timelines. And when we don't experience differentiation, we lose our sense of possibility. We get more and more afraid of the unknown. So if monotony makes us sad, and if the unknown makes us anxious, then this also tells us something about novelty and possibility. When we experience new events, meet new people, build new memories, we get excited. We build stories, we start imagining next steps. Have you ever wondered why you remember more about grade 1 than you do about your first year of university? Why you remember your childhood phone number, but not your partner's? Both scientists and philosophers have long believed that children feel time slower because so many upcoming experiences are brand new. As we age, we experience time as moving faster. And this is because we rely on our expectations that the future repeats our experiences of the past. And because of that, we experience less wonder, less curiosity. So I'm pretty sure we will all agree that COVID was very new and surprising. It shook us out of many familiar patterns. And because of this, that first month, March 2020, is etched forever in our minds. But quarantine felt like Groundhog Day, always waking up to Blur's Day. The absence of excitement and curiosity left us stagnant, hopeless, and immobilized. So by now you're wondering, what does this have to do with building queer futures? A lot, actually. First of all, it explains why I remember every excruciating detail of coming out to my mom on her worn-out old deck. It also explains even more about the pain, heartbreak, and anxiety that surrounds me as I witness backlash against the queer community, as I witness relentless human rights violations. I have seen this before. We have seen this before, again and again. And so we feel ever more stuck in these repetitions of the past. And so I know that there is much that is out of our hands in this world, but what if we are time makers? Even in the midst of it all, what if we are time makers? Remember my hallway of mirrors? An echo of Rachel's stuck in the glass? I remind myself and I remind you that I am the one waving my hand. I am the one stepping forward. I am the one opening the door. And so to be a time maker is to change our thinking. It is to lean into difference, to anticipate new possibilities. To be a time maker is to position queer, trans, and Two Spirit people at the centers of our society rather than on the fringes. Because you know what? Queer people are everywhere. We are teachers and musicians, grandparents and doctors. We're in this room. There's one on stage. To be a time maker is to imagine a world where a world-class gender-affirming care facility exists, with a fleet of doctors that specialize in hormone therapies, gender-affirming surgeries, and comprehensive aftercare. Someone's imagination became our reality in Thailand's Kamal Cosmetic Hospital. Kamal Hospital is the gold standard in trans healthcare, and some of the most skilled and experienced surgeons in the world are there. The hospital also supports people worldwide as they travel to Thailand in order to access the surgeries that they need. Here's a real thought experiment. Let's imagine a world where standardized building codes require gender-inclusive bathrooms in every new building. Surprise! It's the residential building code, and you can experience a gender-inclusive bathroom in every home near you. Finally, to be a time maker is to imagine a specialized group home for trans and queer kids that loves and supports them through all stages of development. One of the greatest honors of my life so far is the time I spent working with my community to imagine and then to build Pride Home, a safe haven for youth ages 16 to 21. Pride Home is about 18 blocks from where I stand on this stage. We are trained to see what we don't have or what's missing in the present. But every one of these shifts took courage, imagination, and the ability to step outside of our linear timelines, to make something different, to take responsibility for our futures. It feels frightening, but as other life experiences have shown us, the absence of difference and diversity is much more painful than their presence. And so this work requires us to change, to face our fears, embrace what we don't know. Because if what we fear is the unknown, then the antidote to fear is connection. If our biases bind us to familiar and safe pasts, then the antidote to bias is to engage with difference. To hope is to be a time maker. To imagine and build new futures is to be a time maker. I'm building queer futures, and I would love your help. Thank you.